Hey, I'm good at games, welcome to the video. While sitting at home working on my top 10 hottest toes in gaming list, something occurred to me. There's already loads of toe-related content out there. What the internet really needs is more complaining, especially about video games. So to remedy this lack of negativity, I've put together a little list of 10 things I want to stop seeing in video games. They aren't really in any particular order, I distribute my hate equally. Before I start, here's 3 seconds to think about your life thus far. Unlocking new tools or abilities in a game is a great way to provide a sense of progression, while at the same time adding new mechanics to keep things feeling fresh. But sometimes rather than a power-up, these upgrades can feel stripped away, just to be given back later disguised as content. To reference my Chasm review, grabbing onto ledges is not a reward. It's a basic function in most games. It's kinda like if Greg from Subway gave you a handful of saucy meatballs and said, "But wait, as a special today only offer, we're throwing in free bread with every sandwich." It makes it feel like everything leading up to that point was only getting up to par. Hookshot, morph ball, flying, those are the kinds of things I'm looking for. I want to start with the whole sandwich, and everything after that would just be a cherry on top. Gross. Who doesn't like to collect things? Some of my favorite things are things. Find some grass, pick it up. Useless twig? Sure. A used napkin? Can never have enough of those. At a certain point though, I have to ask myself why I need an inventory full of 13 different types of shiny rocks that only exist to be sold. Why do I need dozens of different cooking ingredients when they all have the same couple properties? All it really boils down to is more clutter that I need to waste time organizing when a fraction of the items would be just as effective. And a lot of the time you don't even know if it's okay to get rid of something because Jared in the next town just so happens to have magical cancer that can only be cured with 35 slippery nuts. No more, no less. It's fine for games like Animal Crossing where they need tons of items to make room for customization, but even that series needs more options to sort everything. In the words of these toilet paper bears, do you know what really grinds my goat? When I'm riding an elevator, minding my own business, then suddenly everyone in the building crawls in from above, forcing me to fight to the death in order to reach my floor. While I'm on the subject, have you noticed tons of games have variants of this exact same scenario? Contra, God of War, Mega Man, Uncharted, Cuphead, Captain America, Astral Chain, even Pokemon. And that's only off the top of my head. It might have been mildly interesting the first few times I saw it, but now it's basically a staple of action games. There are tons of uninspired level design elements that need to be sent to a retirement home. Shoehorned stealth segments, end of the game sequence where you refight every enemy in the game, capturing enemy bases with murder, mandatory fetch quests, pointless grinding, sliding block puzzles. If you've managed to never encounter any of those, you either don't play video games or haven't noticed you're actually a beanbag chair. But there's one that deserves its own spot on the list. Here's a little life advice from your best friend Dad good at games. If you ever get tired of having the same old pet all the time, just dip them in some red paint. Bam, totally new animal. You might not see it right away, but I promise you that this dog is 20% more resistant to stab wounds. Throw some blue paint on there and it'll even be able to go toe to toe with a lion. Unless it's a green lion, of course. Better off using a purple hedgehog for that. You get the point. Recoloring enemies to add artificial variety is pretty much a video game mainstay, and it's always lame. There are tons of other uninteresting ways enemies are reused in games, like only giving them different weapons or armor, but simple color swaps really take the lazy cake. The lake. Okay, now before moving on to the next one, I need to say something important. I'm actually not a real... Does anyone truly, really enjoy random encounters? I've never understood what's fun about getting cut off every 5 steps when you're just trying to look around. Not only is it annoying, it's also hard to believe all these creatures are supposed to exist in the same empty area as me, but are somehow invisible. Did I just accidentally step on a dragon? And personally, being randomly tossed into a different screen every battle can make them feel disjointed from the rest of the experience, like a video game version of pop-ups. At least Pokemon seems to have finally come around on this with Sword and Shield. Now the only thing this series needs is... talent. This might be a controversial one, so here's a friendly reminder that these are only my 100% factual opinions. Okay, I think turn-based battle systems are kinda pointless. Sometimes. What I mean by this is I feel some games aren't made any better by having turn-based battles, and are maybe even worse for it. Dragon Quest XI, for instance, has a great cast of enemies with memorable designs and super slick animations. But at the end of the day, none of that really matters because for each and every enemy, I'm still going through the same couple of menu commands and watching flashy numbers fly up. Whether I'm fighting a random slime or a giant leaky bear, my strategy remains the same. Not being able to interact with these cool enemies directly feels like a missed opportunity to me. And although it's not entirely turn-based, a lot of what I said can be applied to the Xenoblade Chronicles series as well. When every battle boils down to non-stop skill management, what's the point of even having all these different enemies? I rarely need to even look at what they're doing anyway. Not that I can through the insane number of things popping up on the screen. It's like I'm fighting glorified number pinatas. Basically, if a game is going to have either simple turn-based battles or simple real-time battles, I'll take real-time every time. At least those are usually quicker to get through. The upcoming Final Fantasy VII remake switched to real-time battles, and nobody seemed to care about that, so maybe I'm not alone in this. First impressions are everything. That's why you shouldn't whip out your tail until the second date. Of course, the opening hours of a game can be equally as important. They set the stage for the whole experience and give us an idea of what to expect going forward. That's why a slow start can really drag down an otherwise good game. One of the worst cases of this can be found in Kingdom Hearts 2. The opening sequence to that game is so long, I could watch Bambi 3 times before it's over, and I would only be slightly less bored.
Gotcha!
Super Mario Sunshine also comes to mind for awful intros. I don't need to watch Mario's journey through the Delfino Island judicial system every time I start the game. I'm only here to get things wet. Sometimes I'm alright with a slow start if it's well done and is important to setting the tone, but at least let me skip past it on subsequent playthroughs. Have you ever found yourself really enjoying a game while at the same time mashing the A button every time dialogue pops up? I used to write it off as being impatient, but after discovering games that can keep me interested, I think the problem lies with most games not knowing how to tell a compelling story. I'm not even talking about the overarching plot. Moment-to-moment dialogue also needs to be interesting to make the whole journey worth caring about. A recent game that has amazing dialogue in the same way that Burger King has an amazing book selection is Pokemon Sword and Shield. If all the dialogue in a 20-hour game can be summarized as Leon is cool and Pokemon are neat, it would have had more entertainment value written by a random sentence generator. Also, these people have been living with Pokemon their whole lives. Why is it still all they have to talk about? That's like if everyone in your life only wanted to talk about microwaves, or cats, or microwaved cats. But wait, you say. This game is called Pokemon. Of course they only talk about Pokemon, you idiot. Well, the dialogue relating to Pokemon couldn't be more bland. These are creatures that can change the weather, level cities, and even control time and space. But still, we have people saying, wow, that sure is a big horse. Writing can make bad games less bad, and good games more gooder. If you're going to include boring dialogue, it's better to just take it out completely. I don't care about reading something that you didn't care about writing. Platformers and collectibles go together like peanut butter and regular butter, but there are some instances where the two don't complement each other as well as they should. Surprisingly, one game series I always found to have poorly implemented collectibles is 2D Mario games. Well, more specifically, the star coins introduced in the new Super Mario Bros. Series. Unlike Mario's 3D outings, 2D Mario games have always been about getting from point A to point B with great pacing and compact level design. However, after the introduction of star coins, each stage feels divided into two modes. I can either ignore the coins and enjoy playing through the level at my own pace, or give in to my unhealthy desire to collect everything and spend 5 times as long rubbing shoulders with every wall I come across, hoping there's a hidden coin behind it. And it's not like the Yoshi coins from Super Mario World either. These are actually required if you want all the content. Super Mario World also marked levels with a red dot if they had a secret exit, so you would know when additional exploration was needed. In my opinion, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze handles collectibles a lot better with the Kong letters. Rather than constantly making you stop to search for them, they're usually rewarded for pulling off some tricky platforming. Meanwhile, there are optional puzzle pieces for those who want to check every hidey hole off the beaten path. If you're like me, you frequently encounter the problem of having too much money. You can only fit so many mansions in your castle, you know? Unfortunately, this problem seems to have plagued a lot of games as well. If you're going to reward the player with some sort of currency, at least make sure there's something to spend it on. Here's a perfect opportunity to rag on Pokemon some more. Pokemoney is basically worthless. Sure, I can mug these virtual toddlers of their lunch money, but what exactly does that get me? Well, aside from the satisfaction of a job well done, not much. They do have Pokeballs and healing items to buy, but that's about as exciting as buying milk and eggs in the Pokemon universe. And just as cheap too. By the time I have all 8 badges, I could basically bribe my way past the Elite Four. A more recent and more severe example of this problem is present in Luigis Mansion 3. I'd argue that over half that game revolves around getting fat stacks by sucking and blowing everything in sight. Basically a normal Saturday night for Luigi.
Oh yeah.
As satisfying as that might be, the only things available to buy are extra lives for an already incredibly easy game, or hints to find some unlockables which themselves have almost no value. When my reward for overcoming a challenge is useless, it's not really a reward at all, is it? Alright, that was 10 things I want to stop seeing in video games. To clear things up, I don't dislike any of the games I use as examples. I actually really like a lot of them. It's only certain elements that I think should hit the road. If you have any thoughts or criticisms about the list, let me know in the comments. Does saying that actually make people leave a comment if they weren't going to already? Let me know in the comments. And as always, subscribing is appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.